What's cracking, guys? This is Bruce Madsen, your host of the show of Metric Scout Fantasy Football, and it is time to do another rookie mock draft. We've been rolling these out weekly, sometimes two in a week, but really giving you different scenarios in these rookie drafts of how they could happen, plus giving me the opportunity to talk about some of these rookies so you get a little tiny profile about them as well. In this rookie mock draft, I have a scenario laid out where it's a Superflex rookie mock draft, and we're in a league where our league mates, the whole league, doesn't really value the quarterback position, at least for this year. And it kind of makes sense, especially from the comments, some things I've seen on Twitter. Some people don't like the quarterbacks this year, and some people are going to let them fade. And there's probably going to be some leagues that let them fade a bit because they'd rather capitalize on them running backs, they'd rather capitalize on them wide receivers. And we've seen this in people's rankings too in years prior, so this is not outside the realm of possibilities. And you'll also see people say, pound the table at quarterback early in your mock drafts, early in your rookie drafts, because that is where the value is going to be on the trade market once your league settles in a few years. Both of them make sense, but in this scenario, we're doing a Superflex rookie mock draft with the quarterbacks devalued to show you guys what it will look like. And we're going to be doing that right now. Alright guys, it is time to start selecting our players for the Superflex rookie mock drafts. Again, we're going to be devaluing the quarterbacks here and pumping up the skilled players to simulate what that would look like. But for the first pick in this week's mock draft, we're going to be selecting Breece Hall as the 101, and he could seriously be the 101 in a lot of leagues because he may be the first running back selected, and he's the top running back for a lot of people. He's 6'1", 220 pounds, packs a lot of power at the point of contact, has great change of direction skills. He's going to have top-end draft capital. He's going to be one of the top running backs selected. Had 46 touchdowns in 2 years and had 2.83 yards after contact per attempt this year. He's been steady and been productive all the way from his freshman season till the end of his junior year to finish off his career at Iowa State. And he's a good running back. He's solid and looks like he's going to be in the position to be able to produce for our fantasy teams off the rip once he steps foot on the NFL level. At the 102 spot, the next pick off the board is going to be Isaiah Spiller, running back from Texas A&M. I'm expecting him to get high draft capital. I'm expecting him to be one of the top running backs selected. And depending on who you talk to, he might be the top running back in their rankings. Him and Breece Hall, they're usually 1 and 2. They're fighting for that top spot, and they're both very good running backs. Both of them bigger boys, 6'1", 215 pounds here with Spiller. He's got a little bit of wiggle. He can be used in the passing game. This year, he rushed for 1,016 yards, 6 touchdowns, had 3.63 yards after contact per attempt, forced 56 mixed tackles, and then on his career, he had a total of 74 catches. Not only he has 74 catches, but this season, we've seen him get targeted more downfield, get some of those deeper balls, run more of a route tree out of the backfield than what he was previously doing the last few years. So we're seeing him develop. We've also seen some of development in his overall rushing ability as well, showing more wiggle, a little bit more burst, a little bit more speed in his long game. Isaiah Spiller is going to be a top running back in rookie drafts this year. At the 103 here, we are drafting Garrett Wilson, wide receiver from Ohio State. He's 6 foot, 188 pounds, and he's going to be one of the first wide receivers selected in the draft. He's also one of the most talented wide receivers in this year's draft. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Big things were expected out of him. Once he hit Ohio State, once he started getting on the field with them, and he did not disappoint. He had 3 yards per route run this year, 2.14 yards per team pass attempt, and was a baller. Garrett Wilson's going to be a high-end draft pick come rookie draft season. Moving on to the 104, and here we're going to be drafting Treylon Burks. For many, he is the top wide receiver in this draft class. I think it's between him and Wilson. I got him as my 1A, 1B, 1 and 2, however you want to call it. But he's a big guy, 6'3", 225 pounds, and runs like a deer. He's got speed, had a 41.15% market share of Arkansas's passing production, had 9.3 yards after the catch per reception, and 3.57 yards per route run. From a comparison standpoint, compares to more like A.J. Brown, Josh Gordon, due to the size, his after-catch ability, and aggressiveness at the catch point. At the 105, fifth player off the board here, we're going to be going with Drake London, wide receiver from USC. Tall, big wide receiver, 6'5", 210 pounds. Compares more to Mike Evans, Vincent Jackson. Similar type of player, a guy that will get downfield, post up, and bring down the contested catch. A lot of people are going to knock him on that because a lot of people want to see separation from their receivers, but for his size, he does move laterally pretty well. We've done some film studies in the past, breaking down some of his routes, and he is pretty fluid in his footwork. This year, even with the time missed due to the injury, he had a 30.28% market share of USC's passing production. Also, this year, he averaged 3.52 yards per route run, so he's very efficient. Drake London was also one of the most productive wide receivers in college football when he was healthy. With the 106 pick here, we're going to go back to the running back well, and we're going to select Kenneth Walker, running back from Michigan State. He's 5'10", 210 pounds, and I believe he's going to get good draft capital, at least day 2. This year, rushed for 1,634 yards, 18 touchdowns, averaged 6.46 yards after contact per attempt, forced 89 missed tackles, which led the nation. Looked good on tape. He's very elusive, very cerebral with his approach to the line of scrimmage. When it comes to just overall tape and his ability to manipulate space, maybe one of the best running backs in the class when it comes to that. To the 107 pick, and we're going with our first quarterback here in this Superflex mock. Something you don't normally see, but something that you could see depending on your league. And this here, we're going to be drafting Matt Corral from Ole Miss. He had over 500 rushing yards in each of his last 2 seasons. He can sling the ball downfield. He's got an arm on him. He's accurate. He can run the ball a little bit. He's going to give you some of that rushing floor. He's not a Konami code back, but he's good enough to get you a few points on the ground each week. 68.3 completion rate on the year, and I look for him to be a first rounder, one of the first quarterbacks selected in the draft, and have some good draft capital, which is going to make him valuable in Superflex. We're now going to the 108, and we're sticking with the quarterbacks here, and with this pick, we're going to select Kenny Pickett, quarterback from Pitt, and this was a big year for him. He blew up, passing for 4,319 yards, 42 touchdowns. I also expect him to be a first rounder. Might be the first quarterback selected. If not, he's going to be one of the top guys. And this dude can sling the rock. Also has a little bit of mobility. Can bootleg it out. And really has the arm to make the NFL type throws. Again, that draft capital is going to make him valuable in Superflex leagues. Going back to the 109 here, and we're going to be drafting Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama, 6'2", 189 pounds. Dude has 4.3 speed. He can book it, and he tore his ACL, unfortunately, in the national championship game. I'm not really worried about that. Usually the guys bounce back pretty quick from that ACL once they rehab that up. But this year at Alabama, owned a 31.91% market share of their passing production. Transferred to Alabama and just initially took off, took the bull by the horns, and took advantage of that opportunity. Averaged 3.17 yards per route run, so he was very efficient as well. And Jameson Williams, more than likely, if not, will be a first-round pick in this year's draft. At the 110 spot, back to the quarterback, because you cannot ignore him in a Superflex league. You can devalue him a bit. You can't ignore him. Here we're going to be drafting Malik Willis from Liberty, and he is very raw. He is very risky. The upside, though, is very high. He could be a top 5 Dynasty quarterback if he develops, if he goes in the right situation, the rushing upside's there, a rushing floor is there. He had 25 rushing touchdowns along with 1,764 yards in the last 2 seasons, and he can make incredible throws. He can sling it downfield. He has some accuracy. It's just not consistent because the next play, he can look like a doofus, but 2 plays later, he'll look like John Elway in his prime. You don't know what you're going to get, but if he can iron out some of those kinks, get in the right system, we might have gold on our hands. That's why he's fallen a little bit, but honestly, if he was consistent, he'd be considered a top-tier guy among almost anybody because that rushing upside, along with those tremendous big plays, would make him a star at the next level. Going to the 11th pick, the 111 here, we're going back to running back, and we're going to be selecting Kyren Williams, running back from Notre Dame. And the more I look at him, the more I like him. One, he can block his face off, which doesn't do anything with fantasy, but it can help him get the draft capital that we need for him to be valuable in fantasy. That could allow him to get a couple rounds up there, a couple picks up there to hit that threshold. And if he does, that's wheels up for him. During the season this year, he got 42 balls for 359 yards. If you want to make a comparison for him, considering he's about, a 200-pound running back, he does draw some comparisons to Austin Eckler. He's got speed, he's got burst, he's powerful at the point of contact because he can build up that inertia, and how he's used in the passing game is very similar. Not a one-for-one comparable, but if you have to make one, that's probably about as close as you're going to get for Kyren Williams. Last pick of the draft, 112. Let's wrap this bad boy up with Sam Howell from North Carolina. Honestly, I think he's being slept on. There's some people that have seen greatest film work, like I think Lance Zierlein, and he did not do too well. I think he does have some specs in his game that could allow him to excel at the NFL level. One, he was very productive early on in his career. He can throw it downfield. He can be accurate. Also has the rushing floor. He rushed for 852 yards this season as kind of like a quasi-Konami code back, but that's not really what he is. He just had to do it. He lost all his weapons. You got to think Devontae Williams, gone. Mike Carter, gone. Daz Newsome, gone. Diami Brown, gone. So he had to work from scratch with new weapons. So, of course, he's not going to look the same this season. So you want to look at the older tape as well. I remember looking at his freshman year, and everybody was talking about how he was going to be a future first-rounder, how good he is, how he could be or should be valued as the 101 already in this class. Think about this, too. He can sling it the rock downfield as well. 11.4 average yards per attempt this season. And that's him just slinging it down there trying to get things done because he had less to work with this season. Still looked good. Sam Howell's going to be a first-round selection in this year's draft. That's it for this first-round Superflex rookie mock draft where we have quarterbacks devalued. Again, we just dropped them down the ranks to simulate how some leagues could look, but we're just doing this differently with every mock draft that we're rolling out each week, sometimes 2 in a week, just to give different looks, different feels, talk about different players, and just have an overall discussion. If you've done a mock draft or anything and you want me to just do it on the channel, link it down below in the comments. Is there a player that you wish was in the first round? Let me know. Drop me a like, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching the show, and I'll catch you next time.